Hello, welcome to third and final episode tonight on adapting to online presentational speeches. This episode, we're going to focus on sound. And sound is one of the most overlooked elements in online public speaking because people don't really take into consideration all of the setup that is needed for good quality audio. So I'm going to be talking about a few things that are very low tech, and then I'll talk a little bit about some technology that we can get into. As far as thinking about sound when it comes to video, this is probably one of the things that could improve the quality of your video more than anything else. One of the easiest things that you can do is to improve the quality of your sound. And one of the easiest ways to improve the quality of your sound is to think about where you are going to be recording. The location is just as important as the equipment that you are using when it comes to sound. Now, in the previous episode, I talked about how shooting video in late day sunlight is actually really good light source. The problem with that is doing it outside comes with it sound. It either is traffic, people talking or walking. If you're in an open area, there's dogs barking. But even if there's nobody around, if there's wind and it keeps brushing up against the camera, then it creates this sort of static noise that overwhelms and distracts your audience. So you're going to want to think about the quietest place that you can do your recording. A lot of the recordings that I have tried to do have been ruined because there is some sort of background noise that is happening that I can't control. So controlling the sound is incredibly valuable. And the weird thing is that trade-off between good light and good sound, because some of the best light, it happens during the day, but some of the quietest moments happen at night. And so you have to juggle these two competing factors against each other when you are shooting video. It is a conundrum that I thought was fascinating when I started using video more and more in my classroom. For this video, I'm using the built-in microphone on my laptop. Like I've been saying the last couple of episodes, I wanted to point out how you can use just the basic equipment as much as possible, even though I have some pretty powerful lights going on because I want to improve the image quality as much as possible. The sound that you're hearing is built right into the laptop. Now, when you perhaps purchase equipment for video recording. Previously, I pointed out that there was the Logitech Brio web camera, and it has a built-in microphone that is excellent. It picks up things very well. The only deal with that is that the farther away your camera is, the worse your sound is. And so, again, you have these two competing interests that you want to create enough space for yourself to move around and do things, but the further away you get from yourself in order to create that space, the worse your sound gets. It really is, it's these competing interests that make things difficult on you, and you got to navigate them, okay? But so if you're doing live streaming, that is perfectly fine. I have gotten so many students that have submitted assignments, and you can tell that they are shooting their video at like 1 or 2 in the morning in their bedroom, and they're trying not to wake somebody next door. So you really have to communicate to your students that the time that they choose to do their recordings is critical. Waiting until the last minute won't work, especially if your due date is, you know, sometimes I have due dates that are midnight where they could submit their videos. But you want to make sure that they know that when they shoot the video is critical. And so that's another piece of advice that I give my students, is to think about talking to the people that they live with or around in order to help them with the sound. In the previous episode, I talked about how maybe having somebody work the camera might be beneficial because you can actually use it to track you, and you don't have to do that alone. It's a tool that adds to your communication. So perhaps communicating with the people that you live around is one of the really simple things that you don't have to worry about equipment. You just have to ask for, I need 10 minutes of quiet, please. you can't always control the sound behind you. And so that's another thing I want to talk about. In this time, I want to talk about being a good audience member. If you are doing a live streaming event and you have multiple people that are on the screen at the same time, this could be Zoom, or if you wanted to look into StreamYard, which I'm using right now, it allows multiple people to interact at the same time. The unfortunate side effect of that is that now you have exponentially more variables in terms of background noise. Not everyone can control their background noise. And if you have 6, 7, 20 different people all having different background noise, it becomes this cacophony of sound that is really distracting. And it's becoming very common practice. I urge that people that are doing those type of events mute your microphone if you aren't the speaker. Now, muting your microphone creates a very interesting side effect. And that side effect is that when a speaker in a traditional public speaking class finishes their speech, they're commonly met with applause. But now, everyone watching has their microphones muted. The speaker is met with silence. And it seems weird. It seems awkward. We're not used to that sort of stuff. So before a speaking event happens, you should tell your students that when something is done, first off, make sure that they have their camera on. Don't let them turn their camera off, because facial expressions in terms of feedback is really important. But when the speech is over, let's take a cue from ASL and use the sign for applause. That helps with acknowledging that the speech is done. You did a good job. Congratulations. We are moving on. But sound creates these different phenomena. Now, remember, I talked about using the possibility of a higher end camera when you are doing these speaking events. The problem with that is when you get farther away, like I said, the sound quality goes down. So it is a good idea to have an external microphone. External microphones are great. If you can use them at any time, you should use them, okay? And something as simple as placing a microphone right down below for you to use right out of camera, just sticking straight up, is great. The problem with this, though, is that the microphone oftentimes has an on or off switch that you need to make sure that you have on, because nothing sucks more than when you have a completed video and you play it back and it's completely silent because you forgot to put a battery in the microphone or you forgot to turn on the microphone, okay? Microphones like this can also be hung down from below, and they could be just inches away from your head, especially if it's just out of frame. The great part about doing video is you only have to worry about what is on frame. Like, my wife laughs at me sometimes as I'm walking into a video session and I am completely professionally dressed up top, but I got sweatpants down below. So the same thing happens with microphones. They could just be right off camera and they work perfectly well. Perhaps you are lucky enough to have in your possession a lavalier microphone. It's also known as a lapel microphone. And lapel mics are absolutely excellent. Let me get you an image here. Take a look. So as you can see right here, it gives you what I wanted to show you is that they actually make lavalier microphones that are built to go straight into cell phones. It's an awesome little bit of equipment. And as you can see on the individual in this picture, the microphone is on the white shirt right there. I would put it on the black jacket. I think they're only doing that to show where the positioning is. The point about microphones is that you don't want them showing up on the screen as much as possible, okay? We want to distinguish ourselves from things like podcasts where they have the microphone in the camera shot. They don't care. They care more about the quality of the audio than the other issues like the image. But we are trying to balance our image with our audio as much as possible. I'm urging people to try to get the microphone out of the shot as much as possible, the only exception being a lapel microphone. There are drawbacks to using lapel microphones as well, because if you make any sort of self-touching gestures, you are at risk of touching the microphone itself. When that happens, there is a loud, staticky type of noise that your audience can hear, but you are completely unaware of because the microphone isn't feeding into an earpiece necessarily. If you have someone monitoring your audio, they are able to catch those things as they may happen. But again, you got to be careful about that. Even if you place microphones near you and you don't have a lapel mic, you got to be careful about your movement. The microphone that I have just off camera right now limits my ability to move because it is right in front of me. And so if I'm taking steps, it may become a little awkward, and I want to try to make sure that I don't show that awkwardness on camera. All of the equipment that you use actually makes a difference to how your performance goes. The last thing I'm going to talk about is make sure you test your equipment beforehand. Now this also applies to your video equipment as well, but it's even more important to test your audio equipment because if you have poor audio, it can tank an entire speech. You can see yourself in real time, but usually it requires that you play back the video in order to listen to it. And then for playing it back afterwards is the only way that you can catch it. The reason why that's such a big deal is that sometimes people get lazy. It's too easy to be lazy. It's like, it looked great, let's just send it off. Let's submit that. Make sure that before you start recording, you actually do testing with it, okay? Because it requires adjustment for how far away it is from you, making sure that you can navigate around it and that you're not touching it. Other than that, sound in and of itself is one of those issues that has been plaguing me, because when I try to find examples of good speeches, usually the video is perfectly fine, but it's some mobile phone from an audience member that they're shooting, and it's this big giant cavernous room and you can hardly understand what they're saying. Turning it up doesn't even help because there is so much echo going on. And improving audio quality is one of like my crusades that I'm doing in order for us as a community to professionalize the level of videos that we are not only giving to our students, but we are expecting from our students. Take into consideration how important sound is. Make sure that you plan where you're doing it. Test your equipment, make sure that you review it before you submit, things like that. And then in the end, you should have a pretty good high quality video. This concludes the 3 episodes that I put together. I hope that they've been informative. I hope that they are very useful. Feel free to use them for your students. Share them with anybody else you think that they might need them. I am planning on actually revising them and making them into fully produced videos for classes and things like that. If there's anything that you think that I'm missing, feel free to comment on it in any of these videos and any of the social media that I have been streaming them out to. I would love to hear your feedback. These are just the things that I have come across personally, and I haven't really had the chance to share them to a wider audience. So if there is any silver lining to the situation that we find ourselves, that is that we are talking to each other about what we expect from our students and what we should be expecting from each other as far as the level of quality in our videos. And your body, your video, and your audio are all really important elements. You have to consider all of them in order to produce one quality production. As always, please contact me with anything that you may need. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.